Welcome to Down the Road with me, Joel Heitkamp. Got a lot of things to cover today. We're going to make sure we find our way to Williston. We're going to talk about the pharmacy in Williston with Dave Sandberg and how the vaccine is being distributed, how that plan looks. Mark Rarick's going to join us. He's with the North Dakota State High School Activities Association. He's one of the directors and the vice president of the board. So we'll get a chance to visit with Mark. And what that's all about is the fact that certain fans, certain parents, certain whoever are doing a pretty ridiculous job of being fans. And so that's going to be a real struggle because of the fact that they could shut down fans being at the games, period. And so we're going to visit with Mark Rarick about that. Also, we're going to get a chance to visit with Nancy Jo Bateman. I've known Nancy Jo for a while. And I've interviewed her many, many times. We're going to talk about prime rib for the holidays. Nancy Jo is one of the big, huge advocates for beef. And she works with the North Dakota Beef Commission and has been, just someone that's fun, just someone that understands the importance of what our ranchers go through and basically does things in a way that kind of make me proud to be a North Dakotan. So that's a real huge thing for me. Now, obviously a lot of people looking at vaccine distribution and looking at how they can make sure that it runs smoothly and it runs in their areas the way they want it to run and who gets it first. And there's been a lot of that debate going on. We now know that there's 2 different vaccines that are making their way out there. We now know that when you look at it, one of the things that people have wanted the most was to get those frontline workers, those healthcare workers that are right there. They're in the room. We need them in the room, and there's been a shortage of. We want them to be vaccinated. We want them to be the individuals that come first. And then after that, obviously, you're going to look at the elderly. You're going to look at how that goes because they are the most susceptible. They are the ones that we fear the most contracting this disease and us losing them. And so that's a couple points. But then after that, it gets kind of sticky, doesn't it? Then after that, everybody's got an opinion. And the one thing I've noticed from certain politicians is they think they should go first. Not convinced of that. In fact, I've seen some of the individuals that are politicians that have not been for the vaccine at all and have not thought that it's been that big of a deal. Some of those politicians have been the ones that made sure they rushed to the front of the line to get the vaccine. So it left me kind of shaking my head and wondering what the heck is going on out there. I'm going to use myself as a perfect example before we bring Dave Sandberg in. I know we're close to having him ready to rock and roll here, but I've had COVID. By most scientists' estimation, I'm very little risk right now because of the fact that I've had COVID. Let me just go on record with this. I should not be at the front of the line. I shouldn't be. Those individuals like myself that had a more mild case of COVID, we should not be anywhere near the front of the line. And that's just, I think we need to understand that, and we need to recognize exactly how that's going to work. I think that the plan that's put in place, you have to trust people. You do. You have to trust people. But I will absolutely guarantee you this. Once those frontline workers get vaccinated, once we make our way through those nursing homes, once we make our way through many of the elderly that need this vaccination, what we're going to find is we're going to find people complaining about the fact that they don't have it yet. And when I say frontline workers, one of the groups that I think and I hope that we don't ignore and don't forget are those individuals that that are there on the ambulance calls too. Those rural ambulance providers, they're about as frontline as you could possibly get. And so whether it's that LPN at the nursing home, whether it's that certified nursing assistant, whether it's that teacher so we can keep the schools going and keep the kids in the classroom, I think those are individuals that we need to focus on and focus on first. The fact that we're having the debate, though, ladies and gentlemen, the fact that we're even having this debate and looking at it with a sense of we have options, that's a really good sign. Today, I had a chance to visit with former Governor Ed Schaefer. He doesn't believe that we're going to be back to normal until summer to late summer. I personally, maybe it's the optimism in me, and maybe the governor just uses that common sense that I should be using, but I just think it's going to be sooner. I do, and I go back to my theory of, the providers of the very vaccines that we need, they're competing. They're competing against other providers. And the more they can get out there, the quicker they can get out there, the better it's going to be in terms of how they're perceived, how they're looked at across the world of medicine. And I think that that's important. I really think that that's important. And ask yourself this: if you knew you were close to being approved for that vaccine, if you knew that you had the right product and all you were doing was waiting for the Food and Drug Administration to come through and give you that approval, wouldn't have you been making it? I mean, wouldn't have you been making that vaccine, and wouldn't have you then been doing everything you could to be ready? I think you would have. I think you would have. Throwing away that vaccine, if you didn't get approved, I think would have been a way less cost to the investors of Pfizer, for example, than what it would have cost to make them. Now, the biggest hitch in the giddy-up is going to be that distribution. And so Dave Sandberg, who we're hoping to bring in a little bit, is a pharmacy director with St. Alexis Health in Williston. And he's one of those individuals that I might point out as well is out there on the front line, in my personal opinion. But he is someone who understands this way more than I do. He understands it way more than I do. He's not sitting there wondering, okay, how this might go this way or that might go that way. He actually lives it, and he knows what it's all about. And so we're hoping to tie in with him in a little bit. And of course, in the Williston area, I think it's safe to say, the boom has settled down. But imagine a period of wildcatting, where you're sitting there and you're seeing a lot of people move into the area and move out of the area, and really be in a position where you don't know a lot of those faces, but you also don't know who those faces are being around. And that's just a recipe for finding a way to make this spread and make it spread quicker. And so, I don't know, the job that the Daves of the world do, the jobs that the individuals that are putting that vaccine out there, I think it's a hard job. I think it's a really hard job, and one that, quite frankly, I would not be jealous of in any way. You think about children. Who are the people that we want to protect the most? Well, we want to protect our kids. That's the very nature, right? And yet we're sitting there with a circumstance where our kids are the least vulnerable to this pandemic. When it comes to COVID, they're the ones that, quite frankly, we don't have to fear the most. That doesn't mean that they can't contract it. That doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't, or any parent isn't going to be nervous. Of course they're going to be nervous. Right. Of course they're going to want to do everything that they can for that child. I understand it. But imagine being that parent and being told that your child has the potential of being last. It's going to be hard. And there's going to be some fighting done on that. You watch, the emotions are going to come out. They're going to go at play. And then you're going to see employers who talk about the reason that their employees are essential. Do you remember when everything was shut down for that period of time, and you drove around and you thought, why is that business more essential than any other? I mean, there's certain ones that you looked at and said, no, that is essential. That one absolutely needs to stay open. But we all went through it. I mean, we did. We all went through it. And short of making toilet paper, I don't know of any business that we panicked on to make sure that it was treated as though it was essential and we had to get it done. So I just think it's going to be a process. And I like the fact that the military is involved in it. I do. I like the fact that the military is doing the logistics of it. Because first off, it connects back to the very government that we serve. It goes back to the fact that, call it a higher power, call it somebody with greater authority, call it whatever you want. But the truth of the matter is, you're going to have a situation where there needs to be someone that you really can't sit there as a local agency and everything else and go after. Now, when we bring Dave Sandberg in later in the show, we're going to talk a lot about, what the situation is going to be. When all those emotions go, Dave knows what it's like to have to provide the type of medicine that people need. Dave knows what it's like to have people sit there and struggle with trust issues. Let's not look past that as well. The fact that there are many individuals out there that do not trust this vaccine, unfortunately. Now, we saw over the weekend Vice President Pence taking the vaccine. I thought that was perfect, absolutely perfect, because there's a lot of people that are going to trust the Vice President. We saw the fact that 3 former presidents, from both sides of the political aisle, have said, you know what, we'll take it. We'll show you that we trust it. And you saw different healthcare providers here in North Dakota and nationwide say, you know what, we'll take it. We want to prove to you that we think this vaccine is real, and we think this vaccine is something that's important enough to show the world that we took, and we did not in any way feel endangered by it. I think that's important as well. I really do. Leading by example, and that needs to happen. So when we come back in the next segment, we're going to get a chance to visit with Mark Rarick. Mark is with the North Dakota High School Activities Board of Directors. In fact, he's the vice president. We're going to talk to him about mask policies. We're going to talk to him about schools adhering to it, because we saw a story over the weekend that really kind of left you shaking your head. Out in Beach, North Dakota, where a coach and athletic director called in the middle of the night, threatened, and quite frankly put in a position he never should have been. So stick around. More coming your way as we go down the road.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to Down the Road. Mark Rarick's going to join us now, and we're going to talk to him. He's with the North Dakota High School Activities Association. He's on the board of directors. In fact, he's the vice president. Mark, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Yeah, glad I could join you. Thanks for having me.
A lot of things going on, a lot of tough things going on for the State High School Activities Association dealing with COVID. What's it like serving on the board at a time like this?
It's probably the election that I've wished I could retroactively lose more than any other election in my life. It's been an interesting 4-year session. The difficulty that I think a lot of people miss is, in Activity Association, our job is to try to essentially flatten the playing field for our kids in sports and activities. And when you apply it to what we've got going on recently, it's not our job to interpret health information. It's not our job to interpret science. None of those things. We get our guidelines. We get the opinions of the folks in other state departments, and we try the best we can to apply that to sports. And I think that's been the most difficult thing is, the Activity Association has always been viewed as this large overarching entity that lords over high school sports and decides everything that goes on within it, and that really just isn't the case. We try to make sure things are as equitable as we can, and that's really what's made it difficult moving forward here, because our number one goal has been do whatever we can to get our kids the opportunity to participate, and I think sometimes our goals are misconstrued. We feel pretty good about where we've been so far because we've had kids playing fairly minimal disruptions throughout the course of the year, and so feedback is it's easy to come by. Different people have a lot of opinions on a lot of different things, but ultimately we feel pretty good that we've gotten our kids the opportunity to participate.
Mark, I think at times, having worked for the high school activities for 30 plus years, I got to tell you, at times I don't think people understand the structure of it. They look at certain individuals that you employ to do the job. Through the years, obviously, some of those names have changed and new people have been brought in. And quite frankly, I think your staff is, amazing. And I don't work for them anymore, so I get to say that without sounding like I suck up. But the truth of the matter is it's a hard job, but the structure still comes down to the board. So if you wouldn't mind, take a little time to describe that to folks.
Yeah, the easiest way to describe it is it works very similar to a school district with the superintendent and the Board of Education. You're referencing Matt in the office, and Matt would essentially be more or less a superintendent. He's gonna work with some of the day-to-day operations, but ultimately, what happens in terms of bylaws and guidelines, et cetera, it's going to come through the Board of Directors, and a lot of those big changes, much like a school district, are going to come from a vote from our member schools. The Board of Directors doesn't have the latitude to just uniformly decide on the bylaw change either. And again, much like the school district, we have various committees, and we'll solicit the opinions of different stakeholders, whether that's entities or individuals. You're right, Matt catches the brunt of that, and I've had several conversations with him. I know how crazy my email inbox and my voicemail inbox have been over the course of the last 9 months. And if I'm getting as many as I'm getting, I know that Matt and everybody else in the office has got to be overwhelmed, really with suggestions, with complaints, which with a lot of things that, we have pretty limited control over. But yeah, that structure is pretty confusing. I think a lot of people think that Matt sits on his throne in Valley City and slams his gavel down and decides what happens. And that's certainly not the case.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because one of the reasons that we called you is because word was getting back to us that certain things are happening out there that are putting athletic directors, coaches, all of those type of things in pretty putting them in tough spots. And we became aware of some of that over the weekend when the athletic director at Beach, North Dakota was getting harassed, late night phone calls, a lot of criticism for pointing out as athletic director that, hey, you're going to come into that gym, you're going to wear a mask. That's the rules that the governor put in place. And there just seems to be an attitude amongst some that they don't have to adhere to that. So here you sit, as you mentioned, Matt Fetch, head of the high school activities, bearing the brunt of it. On the front line, that athletic director, those coaches taking the front line or taking the big brunt of it. I got to ask you this. Since your focus and others with the high school activity has always been on the kids, are you close to even debating whether to shut it down in the stands if this continues? Or, I mean, where do you go from here? Because this could easily turn into, hey, we can't let the season continue on. We can't let it go on.
Yeah, it's, the difficulty in just unilaterally shutting everything down is that the majority of our member schools have been great. We haven't heard much. It's in very small pockets throughout the course of the state. And there's you're aware of this just as you talk to people. I mean, there are differing opinions in our state, dependent on whether you're in the East or whether you're in the West, and whether you're in a larger community or a smaller community, and all of those variances. And so, it's one of the things that we've really struggled with as a board this year, is trying to find some direction and some decision on a unilateral guideline, because applying that to all of our member schools is just so different. I had seen some of the tweets that you had referenced from Beach and Bowman, and I see that in that corner of the state, and I know we haven't experienced that here, not with adults masking at games. We certainly get a lot of feedback on limited attendance guidelines, and some of those are from our board, and some of those are specific to Grand Forks Public Schools, and we have those discussions. But most of the adults in our community have been great about wearing masks, and I think that's a problem with coming down and just saying no fans at all anywhere, because there's a lot of people who are doing the right thing. I try to equate it to my coaching days. Early in my coaching days, I wish I could take some of this back, but if you had one naughty kid, you put the entire team on the line and run the entire team for one naughty kid. And it's not the right way to go about business. You don't punish everybody, for one. So, what we're going to try to do as a board of directors moving forward, we're hopefully going to provide a little bit of support to our member schools to find out what it is they need from us. What we can do to help. The added difficulty on administrators right now is there's still that integrity piece to it, because you're really deciding what fights you want to fight and which ones you don't. And in all honesty, it's no different than all of our other bylaws. We have a pretty strict transfer rule in North Dakota, and as an AD, if I have a kid transfer into one of my schools here and I want to ignore that it's an illegal transfer, I can roll the dice and maybe let that kid be eligible. But we don't do that because there's a level of integrity to it. And the masking rule is the same thing. I'm not so naive as to think that we don't have administrators throughout the state who are just ignoring the masking rule at games because it's easier to ignore it than just move on. We're sure that's going on. And so, we appreciate the work of guys like Mike out of Beach that are taking this fight on, and we'll try to support them best we can.
Mark, with the 30 seconds I have left, talk about being a senior in high school, because you coached a lot of them. You've been around a lot of them. Talk about how important it is to that senior. I know I'm not giving you much time, but I want to hear you reference that.
In terms of participation, and that's been our biggest thing, is we're going to try to get them as normal of an experience as we can, and we're going to do that in stages. The most normal we can provide them right now is participation on your team. The next step is competition against others. Is it the same without X number of fans in the stands and a large student body screaming for you? It's really not. You try to explain to an 18-year-old that you're going to look back on this in 10 plus years, and it's going to be a neat little memory that you get to talk about, but it's really tough to describe right now. So, our biggest thing is to protect that participation and protect that competition, and then we'll take any added perk we can get after that.
The slings and arrows, losing an election, Not a lot of people say that, Mark, but I understand. Appreciate it. Thanks for going down the road with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet. When we come back, what are we going to do? We're going to get to visit with that Dave Sandberg. We're going to talk to him up in Williston about distributing the vaccine right after this.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to Down the Road. I told you we were going to tie in with him earlier in the show. Well, we're going to now. Dave Sandberg, he's the pharmacy director with St. A's or St. Alexis in Williston, St. Alexis Health. Dave, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to be here.
You know, about 2-3 years ago, did you ever think there'd be this much attention? You didn't have an easy job then, but now, Dave, it's gotten a lot tougher.
No, I never thought this would happen ever in my pharmacy career, but it's good to be on the front lines and seeing another tool in the toolbox coming down the road.
Did it surprise you that it came this quick?
Yes, it did. Of course, we're in a war situation, so had to get the best, brightest people and scientists working on this, and they had a breakthrough. So, great news for us.
Yeah. Now you're the director, at St. Alexis Health, so you know how tough it is to make sure that you are as fair with the public as you possibly can. You're about to roll out this vaccine. You're about to make this thing work. how do you do it? I mean, how do you do it in a way? Does that criteria come down to you, and then you're the conduit? I mean, walk me through this, Dave.
Well, the CDC, the Department of Health, and Common Spirit Health has prioritized workers that'll get the vaccine first. Of course, it'll be the nurses and ER doctors, respiratory therapists, anesthesiologists, everybody that's working directly with the patients first, and then it'll pass down the line from there based on a grid and phases that come from, like I said, the CDC, the Department of Health, and then our Common Spirit Health group too. And then if people feel they don't, they need to move up on the ladder, there's an appeal process that we have in place that they can do that, working with our ethics committee. So it's a fair, just way of distributing the vaccine. So
Okay.
not afraid there.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Dave. Would you be afraid to take it?
No, I plan to be one of the first ones as I'm eligible. So,
well,
not afraid to take it at all.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I'm sitting there as someone who's had COVID, fully admits that there's no way in the world I should be anywhere near the front of the line because I have had it before, and all science shows that the likelihood of me contracting it again is far less than individuals contracting it for the first time. And so I understand that. But Dave, I mean, you're the boss. You're the guy that's got to make sure this all works. So you've got, I mean, for me personally, you've got to take the shot if you so choose first. Does that give you any, I mean, do you feel guilty at all when you know that the community needs you to do this?
Well, yeah, that's the moral question and the ethical question I feel that everybody has to take into consideration when they want to accept or reject the vaccine. I'm in the age group, as you can see, where I probably move up the chain a little bit, but also I feel that I need to, so to speak, step up to the plate and become a hero, I guess you might say, to further the vaccination of the population too. So I'm putting myself out there as a leader and someone who needs to stay healthy so I can provide the services that need to be given to our employees and our community. So,
well, you're right. I mean, the plain and simple fact is you're right. You've got to run the very thing that we're talking about, which is making sure it gets to where it is. Now, Dave, you've been through the boom, the bust, all that before. You're from Tioga. You're running St. Alexis out of Williston. So here's the big question. How do you handle that? Because out of the state that I love so dearly, you have probably the most transient people. I know things in the patch have slowed down, but there's a lot of people that come in, come out, those type of things, which, we're all being told to stay home as much as we can. And yet when you're in the oil patch, that doesn't always happen. So how do you deal with that, Dave?
Well, you think about it, and truck drivers that are taking the vaccine to the hospital so we can give it, they're heroes. The people that are in the oil field, they need to be protected to get the energy we need to provide the fuel to get the trucks to get the vaccine. So it's just a cascade effect, and I can't wait to have everybody get vaccinated, but right now the way the situation is, we have to get these healthcare workers vaccinated so we can keep the beds open so we can help people live, I guess, and get back to normal and have some hope. So
You've seen the stress that healthcare providers can go through. You know what it's like to be that, or to see that frontline nurse in the COVID unit, and going to work every day where any other person would be not sleeping the night before because of fear. I mean, I'm sorry, but they are right there on the front line and not getting the sleep probably they need to get, because you and others need to get as many hours out of them as what you can. To see relief on their face. So you must see some of that as they get the help that they need in terms of the vaccine. I mean, is that going to be kind of one of those times when you take a step back and say, good, at least for me as an administrator and somebody who runs, a facility like this, at least I get to take a step back and know that my workers are safe?
yes, that's a very good statement. That you can see the hope on their faces.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it one bit. I can't imagine, that I'm married to a healthcare provider, but nowhere near what you need. I mean, my wife is right now working out of our basement, and you wouldn't put her down as somebody in the front line. But to be a husband or a wife of that frontline worker, you'd be so anxious to see them get the shot. 30 seconds left, Dave. What would you want to tell anybody right now who's listening and viewing us that says, I'm not going to take the shot? What would you tell them?
I'm just going to quote our Common Spirit Health leader that just sent us. Our next act of heroism for our nation will be to change the trajectory of this pandemic by accepting the COVID-19 vaccine and championing them with others. We will get through this. We will hug again. Hugs from the heart with themselves help the healing we all need.
You're good people. You're really good people. Thanks what you do for the state of North Dakota and the community you serve. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
When we come back, Nancy Jo Bateman, you want to talk about an advocate for beef? You're not going to find a better one. I have known Nancy Jo in many different capacities through the year, and it's the holidays. I'm eating beef too. Let's visit with her right after this.
Howdy folks, it's the County Cafe. I reckon it's time you'll do for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Hey, you're still going down the road with us, and you're going to be glad of that, because the next person I'm going to bring in is, whenever I think of beef, whenever I think of somebody who is an advocate for the ranchers, I think of Nancy Jo Bateman. Welcome to Down the Road, Nancy Jo. Good to have you on.
I'm glad to be here, Joe. Just thanks so much for the invite.
She runs the North Dakota Beef Commission, and of course, she and I, through the years, have visited many times. And Nancy, what should we have this holiday?
Well, there better at least be some beef for dinner somewhere.
I give you my word, there'll be some beef for dinner somewhere. If you just had to be generic, you know, you hear about turkey, you hear about ham, you hear about all that. What generic cut of beef do you see at most kitchen tables?
For the holidays
For
or
the
just
holiday.
in general?
I can tell you
For
what it is
holidays?
at my place. It's prime rib.
Well, it's prime rib.
Yeah. Is it?
Tenderloin. Prime rib and tenderloin are this is a huge high demand time for both of those different cuts of beef. They're a little bit special. They're not something that we all go and buy just for a dinner, you know, in the middle of the week. So it's exciting though, because I think what I have found over all these years with consumers is that they want to do prime rib or tenderloin, but it's a little bit intimidating, not because it's hard to cook, because they paid a significant amount of money for that really high-end cut. And honestly, they are the two easiest cuts of beef to prepare, next to probably throwing a steak on the grill.
Okay, well, walk me through that, because I've goofed them up before. And maybe it's because I just didn't pay attention, but walk me through. I'm going to cook there's going to be a prime rib this Christmas, so tell me what to do.
Well, first of all, visit with your butcher or the meat manager at your grocery store. I personally would recommend at least a choice grade prime rib, because if you're going to go to the effort, you want to really have that tender, well-marbled cut of beef. And then, there's not anything super magic about how you season it. If your family just likes salt and pepper, you're in great shape, and that'll be perfect on it. For my family, what we usually do, and this is kind of Nancy's recipe, I guess. I take darn near a handful of chopped garlic, and I rub across the entire prime rib, of the faces of the meat, the underside, the fat side, everything like that. Get a really nice garlicky flavor on there, because that's going to just that savory taste is just going to blend so well with the beef. And then for seasonings, you can mix up, garlic powder, salt, pepper, paprika, things like that. There are a lot of companies that already do that for you. And so we just use a good seasoning salt that's got some of those herbs and spices in it, and generously coat that prime rib with that seasoning herb, spice, salt mix. Salt, to me, is something you have to have with prime rib. Salt goes with beef. It's just it's a marriage made in heaven, I guess. And I don't have high blood pressure or reasons to worry about sodium content, so there's an adequate amount of salt on ours. But I just coat it really well with that seasoning blend. And, again, the top, the bottom, on the sides, everything, I got to start talking with my hands here because I get excited about eating it. So you've got it seasoned, and if you've got one that has the rib bones still in it, you're in great shape. You don't even need a roasting rack in the bottom of your cooking pan. If you have a boneless ribeye roast, you'll want to make sure you've got some kind of a roasting rack, or you can even make a makeshift one, which is super easy. And what we're trying to do is get that roast up off from the moisture in the bottom of that pan. We don't want it simmering in that juice that's going to naturally accumulate in the bottom of the pan. We want to roast it dry heat. That means don't add any moisture, don't add water, and don't cover it. So don't do those three things, and you're 80% of the way there. So no water, no any kind of moisture in there, and don't cover it to begin with. And if you don't have that roasting rack, take some tin foil and just kind of make a snake out of it, probably about an inch around, and then just kind of zigzag it in the bottom of your pan and set the roast on top of that. That'll get it up off from the bottom of the pan out of those juices. Okay, so now we're ready to go in the oven. I start mine with a preheated oven at 500 degrees for 15 minutes. And you want to set a timer for that so you don't overdo it. But that gives that fat side, which is on the top side of your roast, a chance to sear. That fat starts to caramelize, and it just creates a tremendous amount of additional flavor. And then you're going to have that little crispy crust on the top when you're all done that everybody's going to want to just cut into and actually include with their bite of beef. So 500 degrees for 15 minutes. Then I turn mine down to about 325. That might be a little bit lower than some recipes. They'll consistently say 350. But I like giving that little bit of wiggle room with my prime rib because you don't want it to get done too soon. It'd be easier if, if you were going to try and eat at 6. If it's not quite up to temperature yet, you're going to have a beautiful Christmas dinner or Christmas holiday type event, have another glass of wine, visit a little bit longer, wait till it's perfect, and then put it on the table. And so 325, we've got a great roasting timetables for all of your listeners. All they have to do is go to our website, ndbeef.org/holiday, and they will get to a special holiday page. They can also go to our national website, Beef It's What's for Dinner, and find out anything and everything they want about that.
Nancy, I want to talk about, and this is a great thing about not being on screen at the same time you are. I'm writing notes just like I'm trying to stay eligible for football in high school here. But I want to talk. You went from 500 to 325 degrees. You had it on the rack. I get that. How long do I let it sit once I take it out?
Okay, perfect. Well, you're going to need one more little tool in your kitchen before you worry about taking it out, and that's a meat thermometer. So you want to have, preferably an oven-proof meat thermometer, or you can have a quick read one. They're probably only a $2 investment at most any grocery store. And you want to check that temperature. 145 degrees is considered medium rare. It can be a little lower than that too. You want that roast to come out of the oven at least 10 degrees before you reach that 145 degrees. And then you want to just set it on the top of your stove or on a oven-proof rack of some sort on your counter. Tent it with some tin foil. Now, don't wrap it because, again, we don't want moisture to accumulate. You just want to, kind of keep that heat in there a little bit. So tent it with some foil and then let it rest for at least 15 minutes. It can be a little longer than that, too. And what we're doing with that is we're letting all of those juices that have been racing around inside that roast while it's roasting simmer down and get reabsorbed so that when we cut it, we've got all that juice in our prime rib slice on our plate, not running on the counter off the cutting board.
Okay, so I have a minute left. Couple things that I just quick got to say. What time? Because I'm coming to your house for dinner, the way you describe. I mean, this just sounds good. But, I bought a Yoder. It's like Traeger, but I love my new Yoder, pellet grill, which it has it has an app, so I can see the temperature from anywhere. I've done it when I've been out golfing. But in 30 seconds, anything different than what you just described on my Yoder grill? Anything I should do different?
Well, read the directions that come with it. I'm not a super expert yet on those smokers or those types of grills, but we're going to have 2 different prime ribs at my mom's house this weekend. One in the oven and one on the grill. And so it's always a contest between me and my brother-in-law as far as who likes which one best. But they're both going to be excellent. And again, temperature is your key. Make sure that you pull it off at least 10 degrees before that final temperature.
Nancy, my money's on you. And you tell your brother I said that, okay?
Okay, I will.
Beef, it's what? What is beef?
It's for Christmas.
Yeah, and it's what's for dinner with me. Thank you,
That's
Nancy.
right.
I appreciate
You're
you
welcome.
coming on. You bet. When we come back, some closing comments. Think about being an athletic director. Think about being that teacher. Think about being that high school student and just wanting to play ball. Let's talk about it right here as we go down the road.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
So this is our last trip down the road for this episode. I have to ask you, what makes you so special, right? What makes you so special that you can take a high school athlete who's been working out? They've been running laps, they've been running crushers, they've been sitting there doing whatever they can to be able to play ball this winter, right? They've been working out way more than you have, but you're special. You're the individual that doesn't have to wear a mask to the game. In fact, some of you and I mean some of you, I don't mean all of you, but some of you have even gone so far as to criticize the athletic director or the coach for adhering to Governor Burgum's rules. So I know I'm speaking to a very small minority of you, but there is some of you that I'm speaking to. Put yourself back in that senior in high school shoes. All they want to do is play their senior year ball. That's all they want. On today's show, you heard from the North Dakota High School Activities Association. You heard how hard it is to do their job during the pandemic. It's incredibly hard. And they want to find a way to make sure that these kids have a season. That's all they want. The kids are the priority, not you. And so if you can't put a mask on, if you think you're so special that when you go to that gym, you don't have to wear a mask, you don't have to adhere to what Governor Burgum says, that you're sitting there and can send a tweet out like this. Look at that. Look at what the athletic director in Beach is having to deal with. If you think you're so special that you should get to do that, let me just tell you right now, you're not. You're not. That game that's being played is about the athletes that are on the field. And you and people like you are the ones that can wreck it for them. And for those of you, the vast majority of you that aren't adhering to that and are doing what you're supposed to do, way to go. Way to go. Because on behalf of all seniors in high school, which I haven't been for a long time, I want to thank you. Good going down the road with you, folks. Always good riding with you.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.